Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So we're here to talk to you.
About theater versus
Voice acting.
It wasn't broken a minute ago.
Nah, see, look at that.
Yeah.
Pro
It was a
stats.
little, like in our last panel, it was a little
Yeah.
maneuver. Okay, so they're very different, but they're very similar sometimes. So let's talk about it, I guess.
Yeah. Theater, voice acting. It's all the same. Or is it?
So who is familiar, or who has a background in theater arts?
Awesome.
Awesome. Keep your hands up. No, I'm kidding. For the entire panel.
I did that before at Johnny Young Bosch's panel.
Oh, jeez.
Johnny probably enjoyed it. Yes, it's your arm hurt. I have only met him a couple of times, and I'm like, yeah, you look like a masochist. No.
Or sadist.
Oh, there you go, sadist. I'm like, brother from another mother, yeah, totally. My acting started with theater arts, mostly in stage management, and then moved to a lot of comedic roles. I also have a background in stand-up comedy, which at the bar last night was like, tell us a joke, and I went, no. And I'm like, that's not funny. Buy me a drink, and I still didn't tell them a joke. So yeah, of course, Greeley comes from an amazing theater arts background as well. And then, yeah, we got on the voice acting.
What happens?
What happens? It's a gateway drug, theater arts. And yeah, here we are, being locked in a box for hours at a time, reading.
Someone going, act! Okay.
Act one.
Yes.
Just take the gun out of my
Just take the gun. I feel like it's hit during my performance.
Or we could enhance it depending on the scene.
Like with Sean Teague, who is incredibly timid. He was my lead in Big Wind Up, and he's also been in Samurai 7 and Juose. Apparently, he was having trouble with the scene, and J. Michael Tatum was directing it. He actually went in and stood directly behind him and scared the crap out of him, and that's what they kept. He seemed like, and it worked.
That's awesome.
Method. So, what do you guys want to know about? Like, yeah.
What size shoe do you wear? I have some shoes I'm trying to get rid of.
What size shoe do I wear?
That
Well,
absolutely has to be.
That reminds me of when I was doing Hamlet. It varies depending on the shoe, but 8.5 to 9.
Damn. There's size 10.
There's size 10. I'll wear size 10 too. Mama will make it work if it's a good shoe. Ask my husband. I have over 50 pairs of shoes, and I mostly wear Chucks. It's like, seriously, when do you wear these? When you're not around. I already locked that shit down. I don't need to press you. No, that's how marriage works, right? Yes, okay. Maybe a theater-related question, or we can talk about shoes. Someone tweet. Random side note, someone tweet. If I could find a photo of Terry Doty's feet on the internet, I would be a happy man. And I went, block. Yeah.
So I think a lot of people here probably heard a lot about voice acting, and anyone that's been to a lot of conventions and is interested in it. But theater, like what do you like about that that's different than voice acting that you don't get to do with voice acting? You like to do with theater?
You go first.
I don't know, and it kind of pertains to why I did stand-up for a long time and why I really want to do it again, it's that immediate thing, like you know if a joke or a line works, you know if you nailed that set, all this stuff, because you have an audience to work off of. I mean, you can't do that in voice acting, especially whenever you're perhaps one of the first people to record. Sometimes you don't even get the elements. So, like, you're doing this emotional scene, you know, I'm holding my best friend's severed head, and I'm reacting to nothing because I'm the first to record. But if I'm doing that on stage, even if it's a prop skull, people are going to hear it. And you're going to be able to, which you shouldn't do, you're going to be able to look out in the audience and see if it's affecting people. You can't do that with voice acting.
No. I like the collaborative part of it. not only you working with, like, just working with a whole bunch of other actors in a very creative outlet is very rewarding and very fulfilling. And there's also a little bit of an adrenaline junkie thing to it, I guess, as well. There's, there's without fail, you're always going to have butterflies before you go out on stage, and just once you get out there and you hit the ground running, it's just kind of like a roller coaster the entire time you're on. And once you get off, you're just it's great.
Yeah.
You want to go again, and then you go back out, and you do it again.
And each performance is different.
Yeah.
Even if it's the same show, like you've been doing the show all season, and you're kind of tired, but the audience doesn't care that it was your 5th, 6th show of the, of the month. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Do it, make it fresh, make it new, and each performance is a little different. It's fantastic.
Everybody, like, the emotions can change, the line reads can change, and it's all depending on how you play off of somebody else and how they play off of you, and it's a dynamic thing. Being in theater is very dynamic. Yes.
When you were doing theater, which play was your favorite one that you did?
My very first one, actually. It was the children's theater production of The Hobbit, and I played Gollum. Do what? It was years ago. I mean, I was 6 years old. Yeah, still one of my favorites.
I did community theater and stuff like that, but I actually auditioned for, I was talking to Brandy about this earlier, like one thing that I kind of stopped doing theater was I was tired of playing comedic relief and hearing, you did great, but you're like 5 inches taller than the guy that we have in mind for the role that, blah, 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 so I'm too tall, okay. And you're just so funny, we'll work with funny. I'm like, damn it. But I actually auditioned for West Side Story, which is my favorite musical, and I was told I did very, very well for Anita, which is funny now. And they had me audition for, I forget, it's Anybody's or Everybody, the girl that wants to be a jet. And cast list went up, and my best friend, my high school best friend Casey, got the lead. He got Tony, and I'm like, "Congrats, bro!" He's like, "Congrats to you!" And I'm like, "I'm not on the list." And he went, "You're looking under the chicks." I got cast as a guy. I was Diesel, and because Action could not sing to save his damn life, I got a song. But it confused the audience because they were like, wait, you won't let the girl into the gang, but there's a girl in the gang already. I'm like, no, what are you talking about? My boobs are taped down, I'm totally a dude. And then at one performance, I lost the tape, so I even had boobs. Like, we don't understand why you're not letting this chick in the gang. But hey, that's my favorite show. Like, my friend Danielle really, really wanted to be Maria, really, really bad. And she didn't get it, and she did not react well because it was high school theater. So she ran into the, second cast list went up, she ran and cried in the bathroom. We're like, no, you're not ruining this for me and Casey at all. There. It's high school theater, it's not a big deal. And she ended up becoming the stage manager of that performance, and I did my number, the Officer Krupke number, and when I got off stage, my mom's like, so Danielle liked your performance? Like afterwards, I'm like, what are you talking about? When I got off stage, she went, you are a fucking god! Thank you. You got over it. Yeah, oh my god, it's so amazing. Yay, so I love that thing. And that's also in my warm-up routine now, but I love it.
Okay then.
Yes.
So do you ever find that if you go back and forth between them at all, when you get in front of the mic, you have to tone way back the projection and everything else?
At first, as a director, it's very obvious when someone doesn't have mic technique, or perhaps they're a little rusty. Like, even musicians are at more of an advantage than people that just come from a stage background.
Yeah.
Because as a theater actor, you're told, play for the cheap seats. Even your makeup is over dramatized so people can see it better from wherever they're sitting. You're in front of a microphone. I don't need you to do this and swallow the mic. That doesn't need to happen. And please, for the love of God, the engineer is about to cut you. Stop it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, and by the way, stop moving. Can you please stop moving? Because you are completely off mic. I understand that it is volatile to your performance, but as far as I'm concerned, it is hindering it quite a lot. What about you?
Pretty much the same thing.
I
You just have to, you learn it with time. You learn to switch it off after a while.
know, now like
I mean-
accustomed to like dancing, but staying in place.
When voice work just started taking off for me, I didn't do theater for nearly 10 years, and I recently did it for the first time last year, and it was comfortable going back into it, but at the same time, I had a tremendous amount of trouble projecting, because I was so used to being in the booth, and like you have to project in the booth sometimes, especially if you're watching Baca and Test earlier, we were yelling pretty much every other line in that.
Oh, yeah.
But when you get used to being able to actually be subtle when subtlety is called for, when you suddenly find yourself on stage and you're trying to be subtle and you're really feeling it, and all of a sudden someone's like, "We can't hear you!" It's like, "Oh shit, sorry." Thought I was being loud. Apparently not. And then it takes away from it. So. Yeah.
I never really thought about it because I haven't really gone back. I mean, to theater.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. Yes.
If you could have a dream role in any play or any musical, what would it be?
Dream roll.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
Don't really think about plays very often anymore.
No. I do enjoy, yes, which of course is a bit cliche, but I do love Plaza Suite. I would love to be a part of a Plaza Suite production, or Noises Off is hilarious.
I'd like to do You're in Town sometime. That seems like a fun one. It's very kooky music. Fun. I like stuff like that.
And more musicals.
Anything over the top, really. I
Yeah.
love over the top theater, like any sort of spaghetti western. That's not spaghetti western, melodrama. Any sort of melodrama, I'm always down for.
I like that. What else? Theater. We're talking about community theater. Like, did a lot of Dracula stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Renfield of the Flies and Spiders, which is from Renfield's point of view, which is hilarious. And Lady Dracula, which is spoof-tastic. Hilarious.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
But yes. More theater, more voice acting. Do it. Ask me something you know you want to. Greeley's chomping at the bit. It's like, oh my God, if only someone would ask me.
So with theater, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced in terms of when you first started getting into theater? What were the biggest challenges that you had?
Learning where my dialogue was on the fucking script. It's like, how do I don't. I just sit there. I would just wait until everybody got really quiet whenever we were doing read-throughs. I was like, oh, no one's talking. Guess it's my turn.
Was it 6-year-old you as Gollum?
Yeah. 6-year-old Gollum was just like, who am I again? Gollum. Oh. And then I'd start reading Aragorn's lines. Well, Aragorn's not in The Hobbit. I'd start reading Bilbo's lines. And like, oh, wait, no, you're the guy that does the riddles. Oh, what's a riddle?
Me, it's being comfortable, because even now, body issues, you're like, I don't know. Everyone's looking at me. They're like, well, yeah, they're looking at the chick that's kind of shuffling uncomfortably. I'm like, So I actually did stand up to get comfortable doing theater.
So you have stage fright?
I used to. Now it's a matter of I don't care. I still care a little. I wouldn't be able to do conventions or anything. Like, why are you asking me questions? And now I encourage them. But getting over stage fright, yeah, and being confident in your performance and being able to focus on the people around you, the other actors, rather than because the first performance of West Side Story, Casey's mom recorded, and during Officer Krupke, I'm all zany, blah blah blah. The second anyone else is talking, you see my lips moving. I'm like, I'm disturbed. Yeah. Da, da, da. She's like, so I wanted to show you this before tomorrow night. Stop that. Okay. Thank you, Mom. All right. But yeah, getting over that stuff. fun stuff.
Yeah.
That's why voice acting's kind of an advantage. I'm like,
It really is.
here's
And the
the
other
crap.
big thing that really kind of drew me to voice work when I was young was the fact that more often than not, like you were saying earlier, you're too tall for this part. I'm sorry, you're too big. I'm sorry, you're the wrong gender. Sometimes, obviously, like you have to play Diesel. Sometimes that obviously doesn't stop you, but more often than not, even a slight physical thing that separates you from what the character description in the manuscript is.
I really like
will
your
keep-
performance, but you look like the lead guy too. Sorry. I'm like,
Yeah,
what?
yeah. So, but with voice work, your looks don't matter.
I
may
can't
not
audition
be
for a
the-
12-year-old boy.
It's like I'll quote my friend Chris Ayers. I may not be a 600-pound Hispanic supervillain, but my voice can be. And that's really what it is.
It really
It's
is.
just about the limit of what you can do here and all the crazy people that live in here.
I've heard Chris here say, I look much more sexier
Animated,
than
yeah.
in real life.
Oh my God, there are several people that I have voice crushes on. Or like if I like, oh my God, that's Goliath from Gargoyles. He is terrifying. That man is terrifying, but he's like the nicest guy ever. It's Keith David. But I get voice crushes all the time. Like Patrick Seitz. When I met him, I'm like, oh, you're Patrick Seitz. I love your voice. And he's like, right here. I'm like, no, I just want to, if you could talk a little, that'd be great. I get voice crushes all the time. Rob McCullum, as far as Funimation is concerned.
Dave Matranga, have you heard of him? Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Happens all the time. Like, I always geek out about people's voices. And they're amazing on-camera stage actors, but I'm like, voice.
That's all about the voice.
Yeah. What else?
Other question.
Other questions, other comments?
And I did theater, and I always had trouble with sticking to a script. I would always do improv.
Mhm.
How did you end up sticking with the script and not wanting to do something random and sporadic in the process?
No, it's all about, I guess, just memorization and the fact that if I did try to do something sporadic, the director would hit me. So,
If you're like itching to improv, what I learned was, I didn't even think about this, but now I do it all the time to listen to my voice. I would record myself just reading it to memorize the dialogue and play it over and over and over and over. Unfortunately, one thing you would watch out for is don't read it so bland, because that can you can get stuck in a performance listening to it that way. But my way of lashing out and doing improv is to add physical stuff, like I did Renfield of the Flies and Spiders, and at one point we're all shocked because Dracula's back, whatever, and we were all supposed to leave, and there's an inspector, and we had gotten into an argument with the director, and she's like, stop improvising or something like that. I don't remember because it was a while ago. But my way of improving was I stayed while everyone left, and I went, call me, and I ran off, like, but he was like, yeah, go. And she's like, that's a nice little addition there. I'm like, it wasn't scripted, so technically it wasn't improv, but it was. But don't do that. Because
Yeah,
a
don't
stage
do that.
manager, I wouldn't be afraid of a director. A stage manager, she'll cut you.
Oh, yeah.
Or he'll cut you.
real quick.
Oh yeah. Stage managers are terrifying.
Yeah.
Good ones are.
Though, I mean, putting improv into practice is good when somebody forgets their lines, or if you forget their line, or if you forget your lines.
Yeah.
Or
Thank God for good improvisers, yes.
So kind of like having good improv skills definitely helps in those situations, but usually if it's not called for, try to avoid it.
There was, again, Lady Dracula, there was a line where I'm a maid / gardener, and we're trying to place where these flowers go, and it was at the edge of the stage, and during one performance, the flowers fell off stage and broke into the front row, and luckily my line was, I don't like them there. And everyone's like, ah, I'm like, ah, and someone else just gets off stage, doesn't look at anybody, she's like, ah, picks them up, I'm like, oh, let's try them over here. Like, it just worked out.
That's the best.
So I guess that's the best form of improv.
That's the best kind of oops, actually.
I didn't like them that much. Good. Improv, drama format, drama.
Yeah.
Since theater is a live beast, anything can happen. Do you have any funny stories of something that's happened on a show night or?
Another children's theater production that I did, it was actually opening night. I want to say it was The Emperor's New Clothes, or some sort of melodrama, because it was this really weird amalgamation of all these different stories and different characters. Like, I played 4 different characters. At one point I was Zeus, the next I was an animal, and then just all sorts of just random stuff that just came together. One of my really good friends growing up one of her scenes was in an animal costume, and she was like a tiger or something. And well, again, it's children's theater. We're all little energetic balls of do not shut up. and so if they're forcing us to be quiet backstage while everybody's out there performing, and so we're just back there getting all excited, and she just decides to like start doing little handstands and stuff. Well, at one point she does the splits, and we hear crack. And she gets up, and a big old hole had ripped from her ass crack down. And it was just right there, just a big old hole in underwear, and she was about to go on stage. And so she ended up going out on stage with the others with the hole, cried the entire time she was on stage, and then came back, and that was it. It's hilarious now. It was hilarious then, but you couldn't laugh at her while you were there, because then you ended up getting a roll of herd.
There are several, but I did a community production of Wind in the Willows, and one thing was you paint the stage, it was like a black box type theater, so paint the stage black. And they decided to cheap out on paint and painted the floor an oil-based paint, which did not dry. And I played 4 or 5 different people in that. We had to do a dance barefoot as gypsies. There was some slipping, and then to top it off, I'm a barge woman now, and I'm arguing with Toad, who is one of my oldest friends, Emmanuel, and one of the little bunnies, which is like a 2-3-year-old, slips in the oil paint, and we're in the middle of an argument, and he slips in, Emmanuel and I being friends, we go, and like hold each other, and we push each other off, like, and then his mom actually just comes out, picks him up, and we're like, we're pretending like that it's not happening right now. Like, things like that, or people being late for cues. Working with teenagers is interesting. Oh my God, being a teenager in a performance, that's your God. Especially in community theater, I don't know how people put up with that. Oh, blah. Sorry, I was late for a cue, but I was making out with my boyfriend. They're like, yep, any second now.
Did you guys ever, when you guys were in high school, did you ever have it to where, like, you ever had like a couple or something do it during?
Do a couple do
no,
it?
No, like, yeah, during a performance like this, like a giant part of the scene or something.
Oh no.
Like they were making out and it's like a giant scene or something. Like they were both in it, like
Like
Romeo
Romeo and
and
Juliet.
like or something like that.
He better make it worth it than being late. I'm just saying. No, never. No, if me in high school, I definitely wasn't one of the people hooking up. Because I was like mama drama, like mama of the drama. They're just like, oh no, Terry doesn't mess around. And she's like, what you? And I was a stage manager most of the time too when I was on crew, so I was more just terrifying, I think. And all that. But yeah.
You have a question?
Did y'all ever get hurt while on stage? Because when I was younger, I was in Oliver, and I jumped off the stage, and I got hooked right in here by a nail. And I had to go back on stage.
Yeah.
Blood just coming down my arm.
Tetanus shot.
And everybody's freaking out. I just went with it.
Just like fun, cool.
I got this.
I don't remember getting hurt, but
Maybe. I've fallen a lot during dress rehearsals, and I have crappy ankles because I skateboarded a lot growing up. My way of getting a skateboard was, I'm like, well, Marty McFly could just grab onto the back of a Jeep and get to school. So if you buy me a skateboard, you won't have to buy me a car. And my mom went, I'm gonna remember you said that. And now I'm like doing ollies or attempting to do ollies. I stopped skateboarding when the ladies came in because the center of gravity was very different. But I have trick ankles now where if I'm on my ankles for too long, they invert on their own.
Yeah.
Which is fun. They're like, why don't you wear heels? I'm like, hey, go to hell. And I'm 5'11", so fuck it. I was doing this French New Wave version of Antigone, and they're like, yeah, no, we finally just built this. It was like industrial looking metal set that we had to weld together. First dress rehearsal, I sprained my ankle, and the day before I had wrecked my car, and the director, being a friend, was like, this just isn't your week, is it? Fuck you. Now I'm going to get up and I'm going to chorus this bitch. Like, no, I've never hurt myself during a performance. Falling off stage a lot, twisting ankles.
I've seen people hurt themselves, and I laughed.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
I love that.
You ever hurt yourself in the booth? That's the real question.
Have you ever hurt myself in the booth?
I've heard him in the booth. That didn't sound right.
She did. No, I was trying to get in the booth, and she was being like, "Get in the booth!" And I'm getting in, and I sit down, and I reach to close the door, and she like ninja threw a Sharpie at me and hit my hand before I could close the door. It's like, get in the booth! I was trying.
Especially with Baca, it was just, he gets booze crazy because, like I said during the commentary, he recorded over 100 hours. Nice paycheck,
In
but
13
it's
episodes.
Insanity.
Yeah.
And a lot of that ended up, being mixed down because you're talking over all these people. But really, and anyone else who records for 8 hours a day and maybe 3 times a week for a couple of months, you go booze crazy, and he would like just do this like, come on, get out of it! And he'd like jokingly slap himself in the face, and we would get like into these tangents and I'd start throwing markers at him, and the engineer's like, Jesus Christ, we need to take a break.
Yeah.
I've run out of markers. Good, I'm gonna start hiding them. God! But it's only with Greeley. Most of the time I scare the crap out of actors.
Yeah.
Almost a fever.
Not me.
No, I've never hurt myself. Like there are horror stories that other friends had, like where they're doing Dragon Ball and they like pass out from. That's never happened to me. I've come close when we did the live action dub of Vampire Girl versus Frankenstein Girl. And I had to scream for 2 minutes, and they're like, well, what were you doing? I'm like, my skin was being eaten off. And they didn't cut away, so it was I got out of the booth and I went, woo!
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do that. But no.
Yeah. I've got, Line Barrel I got close to passing out.
Dude, you screamed so much in that jacket. It's a good show.
Yeah, it was a really good show. A lot of screaming. Too much screaming.
Mm-hmm. But yes, actually, yes.
Another question?
Another question.
Yes, sir. That's fine. Or into acting in general, I guess. Well, I got into acting in general because my mother was annoyed with all the voices and everything else that I was doing. And she noticed that more often than not in my free time, I would come up with ways to turn household objects into costumes and reenact my favorite scenes from movies. And so she was like, there might be something to this. And I'm tired of being the one that he practices on. So she got me involved in theater when I was about 5 or 6. And and then as I got older, I started going around the country a lot with my dad for his art shows, and we would do a lot of family trips. And during those times, we would play a lot of audio dramas and book on tape, and I really got interested and fell in love with those. And that was one of the first things I was like, I think I'd really like to do that because that's just really cool. And being one person in charge of telling an entire story and getting to really explore all of the characters, and it just was really fun. And then on one of those trips, where we were, at that point I was head over heels in love with a bunch of Star Wars book on tape, and that was my big go-to. I'm trying to remember how old I was. I can't remember. I think it was like 8 or 9. We went on a skiing trip in New Mexico, and through happenstance, I ended up meeting the voice of Donald Duck, who just happened to be there, and it was just such a cool experience. It's like, okay, I know for a fact I want to do voice work now. So that just kind of became over there. Several years later, I kept in theater because I wanted to get a lot of experience so that I could eventually pursue voice work. And then when I was 18, I got my first gig, and actually here in Austin, working for what was then ADV Films branch of Monster Island Studios. It's about 20 minutes south of here. The building is still there. It's just they're not there anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, got my start there in 2004. Actually, January 4th last month was my 10-year anniversary of professionally working as a voice actor. So,
Congratulations.
thank you.
Yeah, you can do this. Hello.
Yeah.
For me, started doing theater, but most of I was like, I want to be a stand-up comedian. My mom, being not very much a fan of the arts, was like, maybe be like, okay, not a fan of the arts, but like, you're tall, you could be a basketball player. I'm like, you got jokes. No. That means I'm talented. I'm tall. But she made me kind of focus on, like, maybe become a lawyer, maybe do this. I'm like, that's not gonna happen. And I ended up, I'm like, fine, I'll meet you in the middle. I'll do radio, TV, film. But I'll still do theater arts on the side. Radio, TV, film, because that's much more stable. Not at all. And my internship, I've been doing short films, writing screenplays, doing my own little table reads and all that, but I realized I was always obsessed with mimicking people's voices and creating the most random characters, namely writing out scenes. Like, you never wanted to play action figures with me. I'm like, no, she does not come in yet. She does not come in yet. Like, that kind of stuff. Very annoying. It's endearing now. Let me see, theater arts just through high school, and then community theater just because theater, especially, well, I mean, I can't say especially, but from where I am in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, it's way spread out, but everybody knows each other. If you don't, it's only a couple of degrees before you do. Like, my theater arts teacher in high school went to college with Mike McFarland. So he's like, how do you know Angela? I'm like, because you're old, and she was my theater arts teacher. He's like, I am old, and screw you. Yeah, outside of that, I got called in randomly by Funny just because Joel McDonald was a fellow theater goer. He's an amazing stage actor.
Yeah.
But he played Salvador Dali in Lobster Alice, which is about Dali's 6 weeks of working with Disney. And it's really trippy and crazy and hilarious. And thought-provoking. But he called me in on a whim just because we knew people, and they ended up just bringing me back. And then by that point, when I started going up there regularly, I was interning there, and before my internship, I got a directing job offer there, and writing work immediately, soon followed, So it all kind of just happens. I'm all about jumping from lily pad to lily pad, I guess. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, really good. Now the question. Yes, sir.
Like, after a production's over, be it a play or a series that you're working on, do you prefer to leave it alone and never watch it, or do you like to watch it just to see how you could have done better or keep it better?
I usually end up watching it. I'm also a fan of usually the shows that I work on anyway, so I would like to watch it, but usually I'll end up watching the first couple episodes and being like, I sucked, and then putting it away for a few months, and then coming back to it when I've completely forgotten everything that I did, and then I end up enjoying it, but...
I kind of do that too. Well, you need to kind of step away from it. Sometimes The production delay does that for you.
Yeah.
Where Okami-san and her 7 companions, they're like, hey, congratulations, I heard you're playing Alice. I'm like, I recorded that 2 years ago. I've completely forgotten about that show. I forgot what her last name was. So I want to watch that immediately. It's great, but I don't remember this show.
Yeah.
But watching something like, yeah, no, and it's already out. I should stay away from it for a while. But yeah, because we're our own worst critics,
Yes,
definitely.
absolutely.
Director's like, well, if I hated it, I would have said something. I know, but I just think about how, like, I could have said this differently. Like, again, shut up, because it wasn't your call.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with a theater arts director, too.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, sir.
Is the whole like voice acting community, is it very friendly, or do you have like bitter rivals that you fight for parts over?
You know that you've met other actors, yes? Dude.
I mean, you get all kinds, really.
It's
I mean,
with
like,
any work environment.
yeah, and it is competitive, but I don't know. I don't think I've ever. At the same time, there's not a lot you don't really have any control over it, obviously. Like, also, I guess that's true of pretty much any job situation, but it's a lot of being told no, and then it's sometimes being told yes. Like, yes, you get this part, and then other people might get, a part in that show as well. But then a lot of times you'll have a lot of friends that didn't get cast, and you're like, oh well, sorry, better luck next time.
I think it was Micah Solusad's girlfriend, Apia Yu, who's another great voice actor.
Yeah.
But she does visual novels, and they just did. She had just done auditions for other like side characters, and someone asked, "Well, how will I know when I won a role?" She's like, "That phrase really bothers me, that you won it rather than earned it, or perhaps it was like a competition." Like, generally, whenever I cast a show for anime, I have my top 3 choices, and they are by, I really want this person, but if my producer doesn't like this person, here's my next person in line. And sometimes they've liked none of my choices, and they've completely taken the power of casting that character away from me. It's happened. And, but I've never felt, like, there was a part that I would have loved to have played, but there was some support. They're like, we should campaign to get Terry Doty to voice this character, and I'm like, that's very sweet. Those petitions do nothing. But I appreciate the thought, and I didn't get it, and I didn't, why? I'm just like, dude, who got it? They sound freaking amazing. There's no way. There's no way I could compete with that. And that's the attitude you have to have, and be like, I could have done this so much better. Well, yeah, but you didn't get cast, so let it go.
I mean, at the end of the day, you just have to, as an actor, you just have to continue you have to tell yourself, you know what? If I didn't get cast, that means that somebody else was right for the choice.
Yeah.
And there's always another show later down the road.
And you're gonna run into people that don't really get that, but fortunately, most of the time, the people that, have ears end up hearing that kind of stuff back, and those people with the negative attitudes tend not to get cast very often. So, yeah. And your attitude on the industry and your point of view, it will walk for you.
She's just crazy, persistent, and like just.
But
like,
no,
oh,
you
that's
have to have a
weird.
good attitude. It shows to the people that you work with. It really does. And having a great attitude sometimes helps too, rather than like you finish the audition like, man, I could have done that so much better. Can I do it again? That would really annoy the crap out of me as a director. Like, well, if I had a note, I would have given it to you. If you're unsure of yourself in this audition, why would I cast you?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Yeah. Basically, I don't like naysayers.
Have you ever had a role that was, whether in your entire career, where you got into the role and you just, like, it touched you in a very personal level and you had a hard time kind of stepping back away from it?
Yeah, that's a really awesome question. Kurinosuke Princess Jellyfish was something that really spoke to me, and the show itself overall was a show that just has become very near and dear to me. And
And You're so good.
Well, thank you. I don't know if I would say that I had trouble stepping away from it. And well, may I ask what exactly you mean by that?
Well, so the question stems from like the experience that I had in high school theater way back when, and we had to create our own monologue, and I created this monologue about a girl who was faced with her mother's having cancer, and she was talking about that. And it was after I performed that monologue for my theater group, I had a very hard time stepping out of that because it was a little bit too close to home. It was my mother, it was a friend's mother, but yeah. So I couldn't stop crying after it. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, nothing. I can't say, at least in recent memory, there hasn't been anything that's affected me on an emotional level, at least to that degree.
It's kind of weird, but like, because it's not fully a character or anything like that, but I do audiobooks, and I'm finishing up my second one of a series that Aaron Kaiser Horn wrote called Wings of Thunder, and the great thing is you get to explore your range because I have to play the grandfather, I have to play her three best friends and her, and the reason I got the role was when she asked me, do you want this, and then made me audition just to solidify whether or not she had the right idea about what I could do with the character. But the character is a 15-year-old awkward girl that is very prone to sarcasm immediately and a bit of a tomboy. In this particular, mild spoilers, but whatever, there's a scene where she's saying goodbye to a family member that has just passed away, and I'm leaving, and I couldn't get through it without crying, and it's never happened to me before. With a non-stage performance. I haven't played a lot of stage characters that not necessarily don't have range, but they're there for the laughs, or they're there to talk about Officer Krupke being a dick. And so for me to be able to do that, and like, it was this giant page, oh my god, and I wanted to try to get it in one take without having to splice it up, and I did it, and I sent it to the author, and I went, is this the right take? She's like, you just made me cry. So I'm like, good, that's good. And I sent it to my husband, who's like, so incredibly. It's like, I'm working right now, and you're making me cry. Good, yes, I'm making people cry. But afterward, like, I had to take a second. I've never had this close of a relationship with a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle. Like, that's just a little bit about me. So like when they've passed away and been able to kind of vocalize, like, here's what I'm going through here in that capacity. Like, so it got to me, and I kind of was like weird for the rest of, like, I just did it last week. So it got me. Got me good. It'll be available in March.
So what's the process of doing an audiobook?
The process is auditioning. Most of the time I get contacted by authors directly or publishing houses through my websites. I had an agent, and agencies are fantastic. But for me, I was just getting more work on my own that for me, it wasn't worth it. At least not right now. It probably will be later. And also to have someone else go, no, she needs this. I'm like, yes, please do that for me. I'm so tired. But it's negotiating, auditioning. I've gotten a lot of offers to do erotica. They're like, you would be perfect for this. I'm like, I'm sure I would. But I really don't. I'm not comfortable saying come that much. I'm like, I'm kind of sticking to like young adult books and maybe poetry here and there, so thanks. But usually, oh, I'm so busy, but thanks for thinking of me. Good luck with that. And then recording it, I read the book a couple of times, record it, and go chapter by chapter. I actually try to read a full chapter at a time. Which, if it's a YA book, it's not that bad. If it's a really long book, it's on average, as a voice actor, like we run by whatever scene to scene. There is no break, so on average, I record at least 10,000 words a day. Thank you too. So record that, mix it, pace it out, get final approval, do pickups, not in that order, and then send it off to the lovely powers that be, and then you're done. That's mostly producing rather than just narrating, because I produce all the ones that I do. But yeah, it's fun, it's time consuming, but it's fun.
It's awesome.
Thank you guys so much. Hope this was mildly entertaining.
Yeah, and it was informative.